Hi, scholars. Happy Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, April 21st. Today, we are going to continue working on coordinate planes. Today, we'll get a chance to plot some points, to write our own coordinates. Before we even dive into shout outs, which I'm so excited about from yesterday's lesson, I just want to make sure everyone knows where to find all of these resources in case you need them. So, as you're working today, if you want to go back and look at our anchor chart that we talked about yesterday, on your classwork page, you would go to resources, click on coordinate plane anchor chart. And this is a great just reminder. I know some of us yesterday had a hard time remembering, do I start with my X coordinate? Do I start with my Y coordinate? This is just a great reminder that ordered pairs go in the order of X comma Y. We go over first and then up. All of that is listed here in the anchor chart. So of course you're watching the videos, but as you're doing your independent practice, this is just a great resource for you as well. And then just a quick reminder that your spiral review is due this Friday. Yesterday, we did shout outs for spiral review superstars, scholars who had already completed a good amount of their spiral review. I saw some more scholars working on it yesterday. No rush, just make sure that as you're completing today's assignment, additionally, you're doing some of your work on your spiral review that is due on Friday. All right, let's dive into some shout outs from yesterday. All right, 100% Club. Yesterday was a little bit tricky. It was our first day of a new unit, our first day working on coordinate planes. Some of these scholars scored 100% right off the bat. Some of these scholars maybe had a little bit of trouble and then came to office hours, got some extra help, and had a chance to redo it for 100%. Remember, that's always an option. So huge shout out in UNC to Tenby, Jaden, Dillery, and Anna Lee. Nice work. Shout out in SCU to Danya, Amelia, Nevea, Adam, and Alejandro. And shout outs in Duke to Eulady and Larry. Nice work. Today, we're going to be practicing some of the same skills, so I should see even more 100% tomorrow. Remember, it's lots of additional Vista Voyager virtual points for not only getting your assignments turned in, but doing really well. And then huge shout out to all of our winners yesterday, scholars who won assignment passes for today, or dance parties, movie parties, lunch bunch, pizza lunches, lots of exciting prizes. Huge shout out to scholars who won those as well. All right, so let's dive into today's lesson. Today, we're going to continue reviewing what a coordinate plane is, and then we're going to have the chance to plot some points and then write our own coordinates. All right, let's start with a vocabulary review. Yesterday, we were introduced to this idea of a coordinate plane. We know a coordinate plane is made up of an x-axis. Yesterday, I was saying I like to remember that this one going across is my x-axis because an x is like a cross going across the x-axis. And then our up and down axis, this is our y-axis. I remember this one because y has that kind of long tail going up and down. So this is the y-axis. So our coordinate plane is made up of our x-axis and our y-axis. This point right here, where the two axes meet, this is called the origin. And then we number our points. 1, 2, 3. This graph is just going up by ones on both the x-axis and the y-axis. You do not need to create a graph right now. We're just going to review some vocabulary, and then we'll take a look at another graph, and you'll get the chance to write down some points and some coordinates as well. Now, the biggest thing we struggled with yesterday was remembering the order of our coordinates. We know that the order goes x, comma, y for all our ordered pairs. This makes sense because that's in alphabetical order. If I was going through the alphabet, we would get to x before y. So we were pretty good at knowing which one was the x coordinate and which one was the y coordinate. Where we got tricked, though, was remembering that we have to go over or across first before we can go up. So let's take a look at some points. Let's say that we wanted to plot the point 3, comma, 1. Yesterday, where scholars were really strong is if I were to say, what is the x coordinate? Everyone knew, oh, my x coordinate is 3. What is the y coordinate? The y coordinate is 1. But where we got tricked is we forgot. We have to go over and then up. Say that with me. Over and then up. Again. Over and then up. Again. Over and then up. So we're going to start by going over. If it helps, we can draw an arrow to remind ourselves that first we move over with our x, and then we move up. I know it can seem a little bit backwards because we're used to going from left to right. So sometimes we want to start up here and then move our way down here. We've got to remember that sometimes, or not sometimes, that always when graphing our coordinate points, we've got to go over and then up, over and then up. So let's actually plot this. First thing I need to do is find 3 on my x-axis. Here is my x-axis, and here is 3 on my x-axis. This right here is not 3 on my x-axis. This is 3 on my y-axis, but I don't have a 3 for my y coordinate. So this would be totally incorrect to go up 3. Instead, I remind myself that first I go over on my x-axis. So first thing I do is find 3 on my x-axis. And then I ask myself, how many places do I move up? What is my y coordinate? Well, we already went to 3 on our x-axis. Now we need to go to 1 on our y-axis because 1 is our y coordinate. So I went over to 3. Now I'm going to go up to 1. And this right here is where my very first point is. We'll just call this point A. First I went over, then I went up. It would not be correct to go up first, up to 3, and then over to 1, because that does not match my coordinates. I have a 3 as my x coordinate, so I had to go to 3 on my x-axis. I have a 1 as my y coordinate, so I had to go to 1 on my y-axis, and I am finding where does 3 and 1 meet. Well, right there at point A. All right, let's try another one. Let's try the point 9, 4. And we'll just call this one B. All right, I want you to ask yourself, what is my x coordinate? Excellent. My x coordinate is 9. What is my y coordinate? Excellent. My y coordinate is 4. So now the first thing I need to do is find my 9 or my x coordinate on my x-axis. I think for a second I don't want to get tricked. I can't go up to 9 right here because that's 9 on my y-axis. I need to go to 9 on my x-axis. And there it is right there. Now I ask myself, what is my y coordinate? Well, my y coordinate is 4. So I need to go up 4 spaces so I can meet up with 4 on the y-axis. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And here is my point B. I went over 9 and then up 4. to match the ordered pair, 9, comma, 4. All right. We are going to move into some practice where you can participate along with me. Make sure you have your paper ready. If you're coming to office hours today, if you're coming to reteach tomorrow, we're going to ask that you bring your paper. So I've seen a lot of scholars staying really organized by keeping it in their homework binder, keeping it in a folder, whatever works for you. But make sure you have your paper that's ready to go for today. So as you're asked to come to office hours, come to reteach tomorrow, we're going to say make sure you have your scrap paper with you because everybody should be completing this work along with the video. That is part of your math assignment. So today we're going to be looking at this graph right here. And we're going to be using this coordinate grid right here, first to be finding some points, and then to be writing some coordinates, and then finally we'll plot our own points. So in your notebook, let's go ahead and number, if you want to date it for today. Today is April 21st. So you have this and you know right where it is. And then let's go ahead and label question number 1. Because the first question we're going to answer is we're going to be finding the point that's located at these coordinates, 5, 8. Go ahead and write down those coordinates. It's great practice for when you're writing your own coordinates. And I'm just looking for the point that's located at 5, 8. So let's try this one together. Here's my coordinate plane. I know down here is my x-axis. I know up here is my y-axis. I can make myself a note right here in my notes that my coordinates always go x, comma, y with x first. And we always go over and then we go up. This is in that anchor chart for you to use as well. So I'm not going to get tricked. I'm not going to go up to 5 and over 8. That would be a huge mistake that many of us made yesterday. I'm too smart for that. You're too smart for that. I know I go over and then up, over and then up, over and then up. So I'm going to go over to 5 on my x-axis and then up to 8 on my y-axis, and I landed on the point M. All I need to write is just that capital letter M. I did not select the point that's at 8, 5. I know some of us are getting tricked. We're going up 8 and then, we're going up 5 and then over 8. That would be C. That is not the same thing. I have to go over on my x-axis first, and then we can go up. Over and then up. Over and then up. Over and then up. All right, let's try another one. Number 2, again, you have this in your notes. Question number 2, we're finding the point that's located at 12, 2. Go ahead and write down this ordered pair. Really helpful to have the practice writing these coordinates, and I want you to try this one. Go ahead and find the point that's located at 12, 2. All right, let's take a look. I know the very first thing I need to do is find my x coordinate, which is 12. I need to move over 12 spaces. So I find my x-axis and I find 12 on my x-axis. And then I move up those 2 spaces on my y-axis and I landed at point P. If you got point P, nice work. Go ahead and give yourself a check. Let's try question number 3. This is going right in your notes. You should have all of these saved. Question number 3. Let's find the point located at 8, 7. Remembering we find our x coordinate first. So first we go over, then we can go up. First we go over, then we can go up. And when I follow that and I go over 8 points and up 7 points, I land at point H. If you had point H, nice work. Go ahead and give yourself a check. All right, next one, question number 4. Make sure this is labeled neatly in your notes. Question 4, let's find the point located at ordered pair 12, 10. And when you're done with that one, you can move on to question number 5, which is 7, 7. And when you're done with that one, you can move on to your last one, 0, 10. Don't get tricked on that one. Make sure you've written down your coordinates, and now you can go ahead and find those points. All right, 10 more seconds and we'll check in. I know everyone's being so careful with their points today. We are going over first and then up. We are finding the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. All right, let's check in. Question 4. We were looking for 12, 10. I go over on my x-axis 12 times, up to 10, and I land right on point G. If you got G, go ahead and give yourself a check. If I had gotten mixed up and tried to do it backwards and went up 12 and over 10, there's not even a point there. So that would have been a great clue that I had not gone the right direction. All right, number 5, 7, 7. Over to 7, up to 7, and we land on point Q. If you got Q, go ahead and give yourself a check. And number 6, possibly one of the trickiest ones on here because we have that 0. So I have to think really carefully to make sure I'm not getting tricked. All right, my x coordinate is 0, which means I don't move over at all. On my x-axis right here, I have to find that coordinate 0. Then my y coordinate is a 10. So I need to move up 10. I'm at 0 on my x-axis, 10 on my y-axis, and I land on point E. If you got that one, give yourself 2 checks. That one might be the trickiest. If you had K, you just did your points backwards. You went over 10, left it at 0. This would be 10, 0, but we were looking for 0, 10. So I have to make sure I'm at 0 on my x-axis before I move up to 10 on my y-axis. All right, count up the number of checks you got for this section. A total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you got all 6, give yourself a big smiley face. Very nice work. All right, a little bit more practice. Before we move into the next section of practice, in this next section, we are going to be writing our ordered pairs ourselves. So find some room in your notes. I'm just going to continue working down into the next section of my paper. Make sure you have some room as well. And let's start with question number 7. But now we're going to do it a little bit differently. Now I'm going to give you a point, and you're going to write down the ordered pair. So the first one we're going to do is the point N. So my job is to look on my coordinate plane, find the point N. Oh, there it is right there in the corner. And I need to write my ordered pair. I know that this will be a parenthesis, my x-coordinate, a comma, and then another parenthesis. So we enclose it in those 2 parentheses. As I'm looking at point N, I remember first I go over on my x-axis, and then I go up on my y-axis. So the first coordinate I need to write is my x-coordinate. I go over, and I see N is right here at point 1. So I'm going to write 1, comma. Now I need to go up on my y-axis, and N stops right here at 1. So my coordinate for N is 1, comma 1, and I put my parentheses around it. When you're typing this on the computer today, you'll just type parenthesis 1, comma, and then you do leave a little space. So you hit spacebar, and then 1 and parenthesis. That's how you would type it on the computer. And there's directions in your independent practice as well. All right, let's try another one. Question 8. Find point L. All right, I see L right here. So we're thinking really carefully because I don't want to get tricked and I don't want to write my coordinate backwards. And I know that that's really tricky. It's really tricky to not write it backwards. So I see it right here and I have to think so carefully. I'm not just going to write down a 3 and a 4 because those are the numbers I see. I think so carefully about how my first coordinate is my x coordinate. So I have to go down to my x-axis and find where L is. Well, L is on this number 4. So my x-coordinate is going to be 4. Go ahead and write the y-coordinate. Excellent. It is a 3. I cannot write 3, 4. That is not the same thing, and that is not correct. So do not write your coordinates backwards. It's tricky though, because when I see L, I see a 3 and I see a 4, and my brain wants to say, okay, I'm going to go left to right, 3, and then 4. Not the way it works with coordinate planes. I have to be so careful and so focused to remind myself that first I go over and then I go up. All right, let's try number 9. Number 9, go ahead and write the coordinates for J. All right, let's see what we got. For J, I'm thinking so carefully. I see J is right here. I see the 11. I see the 1. I'm not just going to write down 1, 11. I'm going to really check. First is my x coordinate. I have to go over and then up, over and then up, over and then up. So I'm going to go over all the way to where I see J right here at 11, and then up to where I see J at number 1. So my coordinates for J are 11, 1. This is not the same as saying 1, 11. That would be wrong. 111 would be all the way. It would be over 1 and then up 11 right there. There's not even a point there. This would be very, very, very wrong. But I know nobody put that because we are thinking carefully and we are not getting tricked. All right, 3 for you to try in your own before we wrap up for today. Before I have you try those last three on your own, I did just want to tell you something about Watson. Make sure you're listening carefully. So, as you know, there have been no sports on at all right now. They've canceled baseball, they canceled basketball, they canceled soccer, they canceled the Olympics. Now, Watson is the most disappointed about the Olympics because his very favorite sport to watch ever all year is Olympic diving. Now, I have to agree with him on this. Olympic diving is pretty cool. The divers go up to the top of this like really, really, really tall diving board. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's two people, and they do these incredible dives. I'm afraid to even stand up on top of a diving board like that, and so is Watson, because he doesn't actually know how to swim. But these divers, they not only climb up there, they jump off or dive off and do like insane flips in the air, twists and turns, all these really cool things. And of course, lands like perfectly in the water. So his favorite sport to watch is Olympic diving. He loves watching the divers go off the diving board into the swimming pool. So if you need to write it down so you don't forget, write it down. But Watson's favorite sport is Olympic diving. His favorite sport to watch. He doesn't actually know how to swim or how to dive, but he loves to watch it. So I'm sure you guys heard the Olympics have been canceled for this year, so huge bummer there. But they've been moved to 2021, so excited to see those in 2021. Next summer, we will get to see some Olympic diving. All right, let's finish up with our next three questions. Last three, I'm going to give you the points. You are going to write your coordinates, and then we'll check in. Let's label on our paper question 10. I want you to find the coordinates for point A. 11, the coordinates for point B. And 12, the coordinates for point P. Best of luck. We'll check in just a couple minutes. All right, let's check in and see what we got. For point A, here it is up here. We think really carefully. We don't just start writing down the first number we see. Instead, we make sure we go over and then up, over and then up. So I go over 2 and then up all the way to where I see A right here at 12. So my coordinates for A are 2, 12. Making sure I have that comma in there, make sure I have my parentheses. If you got 2, 12, go ahead and give yourself a check. Nice work. All right, point B. Where is point B? A tricky one. There's point B. Okay, it's on the axis. I have to be so careful not to get tricked. Okay, so the very first thing I do is I find my x coordinate, and that tells me how many to go over. Well, B has not moved over at all. In fact, B is right here at 0. So I know my x coordinate is actually going to be 0. Now let's see what my y coordinate is. Well, B has moved up 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. So my ordered pair for B is 0, 4. This is not the same as 4, 0. 4, 0 would mean I'm moving over 4 and then not moving up at all and staying right there, there's not even a point there. So it is not the same. Nobody put that. If you have 0, 4, nice work, give yourself a check. And finally, point P. Here's point P right here. I know I go over first, so I'm looking at P. P is all the way over here on the 12, and then I moved up to 12, 2. If you got the ordered pair 12, 2, go ahead and give yourself a check. Only 3 possible points. Go ahead and give yourself a 3. If you got all of these correct, nice work. All right, scholars. Today we got the chance to practice plotting some points. We got the chance to practice finding some points and the chance to practice writing some ordered pairs. In your independent practice today, you are going to have the opportunity to do just what we practiced just now. Note that at the top, I have just some reminder directions that when writing a point, just write the capital letter. For example, B. When you're writing coordinates, you'll use those parentheses and a comma with a space after the comma. For example, parentheses 4, comma, space 3, and parentheses. So I'm so excited to see how well you do today. You'll be using this coordinate grid to find points located at different ordered pairs. Yesterday, we had quite a few scholars not score as well as they usually do because they went backwards. They found this ordered pair 3, 1, and they wanted to go up 3 and over 1. Don't let that happen to you. Instead, we have to be so careful. We know we go over and up, over and up, over and up. We go to that X before we go to our X-axis to find our 3 before we can go up to 1. All right, best of luck. Cannot wait to see lots of 100% on today's practice. Happy solving. I'll see you guys tomorrow.